remember I was at a McDonald's in Nevada, and a guy straight up asked me if I had a cock, and he was with his grandma, and he called me out on the street at a McDonald's while he was eating an ice cream cone, like nonchalantly, and stuff like that would happen quite often. I asked him if he ever got his ass kicked by a woman.
Touche.
I said, I don't care if you're with your grandma. I'll beat you up too. You're right in front of your grandma with your eating your ice cream cone.
Could you introduce yourself to the camera?
Hi, my name is Paige Hammond, or Pikey Paige. My pronouns are she and her. I guess I spent a lot of my childhood dressed up like a girl, painting my nails, piercing my ears, and stuff like that. And I remember there was a time when I was like 5, and I was on a play date with a female friend who was also 5, and her mom changed us both, and she had a vagina and I had a penis, and it was this feeling of like, oh, she's different than I am, and it was heartbreaking. And so I started making a projection of the man I thought I was supposed to be throughout my whole life, and I got closer and closer to being this tough guy and things that I thought I was obligated to be, and I did achieve that, but the closer I got to that goal, the further away I got from that little girl, which I started out as, and I realized my new dream was to become what I was happiest as, and that was my original gender identity that I kind of allowed Western culture to say I couldn't do. I came out when I was 28, but I don't think it was till Caitlyn Jenner that I'd ever really heard the word transgender. I think if I had known what it was 10 years earlier, I would have come out sooner, but there wasn't a lot of language or exposure on the topic. To me, a sex change was just a trick on a skateboard or something that happened in Thailand and distant places. I didn't think I could change my gender. Mostly, I fell down pretty hard in life when I came out. It was a difficult experience. A lot of friends I thought were friends, a lot of family I thought were family kind of vanished into thin air, and I was left on my own a little bit. But I think that's a pretty common story for trans women. A lot of trans women have faced houselessness, and I ended up on the brink of it and homeless a couple times since my transition, and I'm here to tell the tale now. Being transgender nowadays, trying to find work is like being African American in the 1950s looking for work in a whites only club. It's really hard to find work, and if you don't live in Los Angeles or New York or San Francisco, and you live in a small town like I did for 2 years of my transition, life can be very bleak for trans women. I was working at the Rainbow Bar and Grill on the Sunset Strip. I was managing it from 2013 to 2019. I put on some lip gloss and they started harassing me, writing me up for things that didn't make sense. They didn't fire me. They cut my hours and I quit. I found that trying to date isn't as, you kind of become a novelty for guys who are either gay or want to be trans women themselves. You're kind of an experimental bridge to a larger sexuality for most men. We call them chasers. I feel like a novelty or a sex toy or a fantasy, and every girl wants to be a fantasy, but you want to be more than that. You want to be recognized for your talents and your ambitions and who you are as an individual. And I feel like in the dating world nowadays, it's more about sex and not about a connection. But I've only been transitioning for 3 years. Maybe I'll find somebody where it's a real thing.
Darling sunshine, for the rest of your life, I hope you find a very special guy. A guy's not like me, knows what he believes, he won't hesitate, he'll make you wait. The only thing in my way, for my own to feed, the time slips away with every heartbeat, darling, sunshine.
I went from a really tough guy to, which was all like masking pain basically of not being who I was supposed to be. I just went from tough guy to feminine trans woman kind of overnight, but I was a bouncer and a trained MMA fighter and stuff. So I try not to be violent or aggressive, especially because the hormones make me way less adverse. But there is still a side of me that doesn't put up with bullshit, and I'm glad I learned the training that I have because I feel safer as a trans woman, and I advocate for all trans women to learn self-defense.
My rosebud, the broken glove, the one I failed to give home. Was it spite that made you grow so strong, or was it those jeans you got from your mom?
I've been doing music in bands since I was 18. I was in a band called Merkin for 9 years, and we moved to Los Angeles together in 2013 and lived in a car. And that car got towed mid-pizza delivery when I was working as a pizza delivery person. And we were homeless then, and but I got picked up by American Idol and The Voice, and that's kind of why I came out to LA. So I did that, and I only did originals, so they kicked me off of American Idol and The Voice, and then Merkin split up, and I formed a band called Registered Offender. It was a punk rock avant-garde band, and we got a lot of coverage in the LA Weekly, and we had a residency at the Whiskey Go-Go, the Viper Room, the Roxy. I'm influenced by Tom Waits, John Lennon, David Bowie, Talking Heads. I took being on stage as my opportunity to dress up more feminine. It was kind of my gateway to becoming transgender. I'd put on wigs, and I'd put on makeup, or I'd wear tight clothes or whatever. And the moment that I decided to be trans, I went from wearing a 3-piece sharkskin suit with an Eldridge knot tie to wearing a dress and high heels overnight, and it freaked a lot of people out. Every transgender woman is like a mini Martin Luther King. We're all changing the world every time we go out our door, and you know, you should be proud of yourself and all that, but I would advise not going above and beyond to do too much extra, because you're already doing a lot just wearing the clothes you like to wear, you know. And if you do feel like doing more, you know, God bless you, but don't get overwhelmed, because it can be very overwhelming whether you choose to adopt a socially, politically active life, or you just want to fly under the radar. You know, you kind of get put into a position of political activism, being somebody that looks like a man or could be considered a man wearing makeup and a dress with a deep voice or whatever. Do it slowly. Don't do what I did and come out overnight. Start taking hormones, start feminizing your clothing slowly. Let people get used to the idea. Try to have a job for 3 or 4 years that can't fire you, because they're going to want to. Make sure that you have money. Make sure you have a savings account. Make sure you have a future planned out that can't be taken away from you because somebody is prejudiced. And don't be shocked when you go from having, 5,000 friends on Facebook to 100. But when you're left with those last few people, those are the real friends. So it's going to be a big weeding out the crap in your life, which, it will be to your detriment maybe at first, but I feel pretty free not living for other people's approval, not having acquaintances that are backstabbers or duplicitous towards me, and knowing my friends are my real friends.
A fortune cookie is seldom right. Santa Claus doesn't exist. I put bread on the table. I guess that's about it. Took the Nissan up to Highway 9 each and every day. Close to the heart, still so far away.
I think we are here to be creative. We are mankind, womankind. We're the only species that creates anything that isn't necessary to survival or procreation, just for the aesthetic of having a piece of creation that is our own experience made tangible, like art or music and all that. So I think that when you're creating, you're the most true to yourself, whether you're transgender or a painter or a musician like myself. I'm very spiritual. I'm not religious, but I feel like I have a relationship with something greater than myself that I can't describe or understand, and it gives me comfort and strength.